Arnold actually showed up to Arnold Schwarzenegger actually showed up to your lab. And I'm curious, and I'm sure other people would be too, that, did he say anything? Was he like kind of blown away or shocked by, what human physiology is now compared to, him just lifting weights and bodybuilding kind of with no very minimal background knowledge? And now we have all of this data. We have wires connected to muscles. We collect everything.
Well, first of all, Governor Schwarzenegger was a very interested and kind individual who visited our lab and spent a considerable amount of time. You got to remember that I'm probably of a similar genre time period. A lot of what he did in his particular sport was very important because he anecdotally tried everything out, right, as well as a lot of the pioneers did from all the different sports, from weightlifting, as we well know, with Bob Hoffman and York Barbell and all the Eastern European and worldwide changes that occur. And then also with regard to just the bodybuilding with the whole Weider scenario, promoting it, and basically with weightlifting, that again, they're the genres. But he was very, first of all, I found that this is a very highly intelligent individual, young man, I should say, my age or a little bit older, not quite, but he was very attentive to the fact that we now can even, what we look at in science many times is we take from the anecdotal areas and then we try to see, well, how did that work? It seemed to work. Well, why does it work? That's what the science does. It gives you the mechanisms of how maybe a rest pause system works or something works in some of the training theories. And this is where I think it was very interesting. And I think that he is a very intelligent man. He very, very carefully asked questions. We got into the whole aspect of the neuroscience, which we've done a lot in our laboratory, of how the brain functions with regard to injury, how it functions with regard to resistance exercise and loading, as we've talked about. In fact, our lab then can actually measure the signal coming from the motor cortex and how it comes from the M1 area and goes all the way down the system to stimulating the muscles involved. And you can see this on the EEG and the EMG and all the other technologies that we can connect to an individual to see it in live form. It's quite impressive. I think the bottom line is we learned a lot about it as I was relating this to Governor Schwarzenegger. We learned a lot about the fact that how much the frontal brain inhibition can affect the M1 line, and all the other areas of the brain can affect that signaling that goes from the M1 with the motor cortex, sending down all those action potentials to all the muscles. Remember, in a squat exercise, it takes about 244 muscles to do a squat, and they all perform differently. They have different roles and different functions. So the whole aspect of neuroscience has gotten so complex. But we enjoyed having him in the lab. I was honored. I followed him, as a young athlete and an individual interested in resistance training my whole life. And he was one of the icons in the world. So it was an honor for me to even have him in the laboratory and meet him, and how kind and how respectful and how much he viewed science with really a great deal of care to what was going on and how we've advanced our understanding. The question really comes along is what can we do in science to push forward our understanding of improving training concepts? Many times it comes through the idea of individualization and how we can better monitor it to better prescribe it. And I think that this was always so interesting. Yeah, he really was. He's really was so. It was so funny. We showed him our new way. If you got to take a blood sample from work with the military, DARPA came up with a vein so you could actually look at a vessel and be able to put the needle in and not have to guess anymore. And it visualizes the vein in kind of a infrared purple type of phenomenon technology. And that was funny. And then we showed him all the aspects of how we can measure power and velocity, environmental changes, and the neuroscience aspects. And then we got to the weight room, my weight room that we utilized for a lot of the studies. And he was excited to see the weight room, obviously, because that's core for both of us. That's the core. And then we talked, and he just is was so interested, absorbing things, asking a few questions, but just absorbing all the presentations and things like that. So it was really an honor and a joy to have him in the laboratory, and the fact that we did a lot of work with the Arnold Classic with Dr. Jan and my late friend Terry Todd with regard to strongman competitors, and a lot of these things come to bear, and it was just a joyous day of actually exciting moment in time that I'll remember. Very exciting.